Good afternoon, my fellow Barbadians, members of the Democratic Labour Party, those watching online and those in the diaspora. It is my pleasure to be here with you this Saturday afternoon, and I want to thank you for joining us, taking the time to be with us, and those who may watch us later. I also want to thank you for taking the time for viewing. Today represents what the General Secretary rightly just had whispered in my ear before I came on to talk to you, a watershed moment in the rebuilding and the renewal of the Democratic Labour Party. It is no secret that the party has lost 2 consecutive elections, 30-0. There was a broken trust relationship with the party and Barbadians. There's a broken politics in this country, which requires a renewal not only of the Democratic Labour Party, but requires a renewal for the country. You have called for it, you have asked, you've emailed, you've texted, you've pulled me over in the supermarket, you have messaged, so much so that when I go shopping, my wife just allocates 2 hours because she knows I will not make it home after simply going for milk or butter. And I enjoy the conversations, the camaraderie, the comments, your support. And therefore, it is with pleasure today that we announce the first shadow cabinet of this new executive. And this shadow cabinet, the purpose will be to ensure that we keep the government's feet to the fire, ensure that Barbadians get the representation that they deserve, that they have called for, that they want, ensure that we're able to promote our democracy. And furthermore, to ensure that the people of this country get the new politics that this party has so long tried to promote. I want to start by thanking the members of the Democratic Labour Party who've agreed to join this shadow cabinet. And not to be a tease, although my wife told me this morning not to make any jokes because she says that I'm not very good at them. But I want to give a little bit of context to the shadow cabinet, and perhaps it's something that's never been done. And I think it's really necessary. And there's a reason I started off by saying thank you to those who have agreed to serve. Because what we have to recognize is that persons serving here and being here today means that they're not with their families, they're not with their kids, they're not with their elderly parents that they may have to take care of, they're not with their friends, they're not doing the things that other persons are able to do. And they're doing it so that you can do the things that you're able to do. This is a huge sacrifice. People say that in politics a lot, but I do not think they understand really the type of sacrifice that is required to serve in this capacity. I will probably be calling these gentlemen and women at 12 o'clock at midnight, waking them up at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, all kind of clock. If there's an issue that requires the attention of people, that is the requirement of service. I think they understand what I expect of them, and I only expect excellence. And I will, say this using a famous statement. A leader can appoint and a leader can disappoint. And I say that to be very clear, especially those who've worked with me before. We will demand and we will expect excellence of you. And you do this because your friends and your family, they expect excellence of you. The Barbadian public will expect you to be excellent. So you are not only doing this for the Democratic Labour Party, you are doing this for everyone else around you. And I know that you will not let me down, you will not let your party down, and importantly, you will not let your country down. I know that's a tall order. That's a tall order for a party that has no seats, no subvention, and that's a lot to ask of anybody in this circumstance. So I think the people of Barbados need to understand what these young gentlemen and women who have stepped forward to serve, and the not so young gentlemen and women and the gray beards that are required, because what we have tried to do is to create a mixture of youthful talent and energy and exuberance, along with the wisdom of those who have preceded many of us here on this earth, and a mix of not only men and women, and to be able to present to the country the start of something new and something big. And I hope, as I said, that is a deep appreciation for what these folks are giving today in terms of their service. The times that they will give up to be away from home, the times that they will take your call, the times that they will miss that family dinner, the times that they will miss that little gathering, the times that they may not be able to have the 5-minute conversation that they have with their mother or their father every morning. In fact, more than 5 minutes, because we know when the parents call, it can go on for a while. And all of these things that are part of their lives, but they do this because they do it for country, and they do it for you. Really, that's who they do it for. They are not paid. There's no remuneration for this. There's nothing. And I really want that to sink in to you, to understand that these people here are giving of their life for you. They are trying to do this for you. They have been called to serve in many ways. They've been called, whether that be the spiritual call or whether that's the call they get from me on the phone. However they get the call, they have answered that call and they are here. And I am eternally, eternally grateful for what we are doing and what we are building out. This is the start. There will be more to come, but I just want all of Barbadians, and I want members of the Democratic Labour Party to understand what this means today and to understand the importance of this moment and the team that we're trying to build out and what we're trying to do for the people of this country. With that said, I also want to indicate to the party at large and to the country that we will also be appointing an elders council, again, to seek the wisdom of those who have served in Parliament and those who have been part of the political processes of this country for a long number of years, and they will be able to advise and guide not only the Shadow Cabinet, but they'll be able to advise and guide myself, because we require that strength and that reliance of experience that we can give to Barbados. Now, with that said, I will announce the members of the Shadow Cabinet. As I said, I am eternally grateful and thankful for them for answering the call for service. In no particular order, we would have as the Shadow Minister of Education, Mrs. Felicia Dujon, and as the Shadow Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports, who is also the chair of the Young Democrats, Ms. Tyra Trotman, as the Shadow Minister of Labor and Agriculture, Mr. Walter Maloney, as the Shadow Minister of Housing and Community Development, Mr. Ricardo B. Harrison, as the Shadow Minister of Poverty Alleviation and Human Development, our own Pastor Matthew Thorne, who will also be the chaplain of the Democratic Labour Party. And I will pause a minute to say something on that. The executive councils of this party took a decision to appoint a chaplain of this party last year. We did not make a big song and dance about it, as may have been done in other places, because we understand that spiritual guidance can be something that is very personal. We wanted and we believe that it was important to have a chaplaincy in the party. This is the first of its kind. As I know and as researched, I cannot find political parties having chaplains. We know universities, armies, hospitals, different places, and the chaplain will be here. The schedule will soon be posted so that members of the party who require spiritual guidance can have that through this institution, and the wider community, the chaplaincy will provide. Chaplaincy will also be able to engage with other spiritual leaders and other religious leaders in this country and across the world as necessary. And he will soon be sending official correspondence to set up meetings and engagements with the official religious leaders of this country, covering all faiths. So I am excited and I look forward to the work of the chaplaincy. I have a personal stake in this, given my own past, where I at one point wanted to be a priest, And often in life, they say you end up being a priest, a politician. I won't call the other thing. And I'm not going to do jokes, as I said. But you either end up being a priest or a politician or something else. And I am really, really looking forward to what a chaplaincy can do for a political party and the spiritual guidance that can provide for our memberships, and not only for our membership, but also for myself. I think it is very important to be able to understand and engage, because I do not hide my religious faith. I have a deep, abiding faith, and it is something that I express willingly and openly. I understand others may not share that faith, and that is okay. But I do not cower and hide my faith on the grounds that others may not share it. That is for each their own. But that said, I am looking forward to the exciting work that the chaplaincy can bring to the party and to the country. Now, in terms of our Shadow Minister of Social Services, Mrs. Faith Grace will take that position. And in terms of our Shadow Minister of Gender Affairs, Mrs. Melissa Savory Gittins, who also serves as the chair of the Democratic League of Women. And I will pause here a minute to speak on this particular post as well. I am equally excited about this post from the position, and I always speak real and real frank with people. The party in the most recent past has had issues engaging with one of our largest, not only voting blocks, but one of our largest blocks, which are women. Let's be realistic. This is not something traditionally that the party has struggled with, because the party has always been at the vanguard of understanding women's rights. We know that Barbados was one of the first persons to appoint a department and create a Department of Women's Affairs. We know that the Democratic League of Women were at the forefront of much of the modern legislation that we now take for granted that protect the women of Barbados, started right here in George Street in these buildings of discussion. And it is really important for us as a party, and for me personally, to signal to Barbadian women and to women at large that this party is committed to your advancement and to your full engagement and involvement in the political processes are not only of this party, but of this country. And therefore, it is with pleasure that we appoint a Shadow Minister of Gender Affairs. Does that mean that we are not taking stock of the role of our boys and their declining performance, whether it be in school, whether it be in the workplace, and all the other spaces? No, it does not, because within that, under my office, there will be a special section created to address and deal with issues facing young men within this country, so that we can ensure that there's some parity and balance as we address the performance of our women and the promotion of our women in our party. We recognize that men are not doing, especially our young boys, are not performing the way that they should be. And I take a personal stake in this as well, because I have a son. I will say that as well. Often, sometimes your political decisions are influenced by your own personal experience. And that is why we need diversity in politics. And I hope that this Shadow Cabinet today reflects that diversity. And often when people say diversity, they think you mean men and women are black and white. It's not that. When I say diversity, I mean diversity of experiences. I mean people who have different backgrounds, who come from different spaces, who grew up in different places, some who have lived overseas, some who have not, who are trained in Barbados, who are not trained in Barbados, who share different religious experiences. That is what I mean when we talk about diversity. We're not talking about the normal tracks of diversity, because someone coming with an experience, my own experience having a son, my radar is up about boys' performance, because naturally now I'm like, okay, what's my son going to do? Where is he going to go? What's he supposed to do? And I'm not saying that someone who doesn't have a son doesn't appreciate that, but it just brings it to the forefront of my mind. And that's why policy making is so important, to have different people at the table doing different things. That's why it's important to have people in this group who have families. That's why it's important to have people here who may have elderly folks to take care of, because they can then share and bring these things to the forefront. Things that sometimes we may not even think about, not because you're being callous, but it's just not on your radar. And diversity in cabinet is very, very, very important to me. I also would like to announce, talking about diversity and youth, I would like to announce Rashid Belgriff, who will be a shadow minister with a portfolio in my office. I would also like to announce equally Katrina Goodridge, who will be a shadow minister with a portfolio in the leader's office. And I would like to also take this opportunity, no means last or least, to announce that Mr. Richard Seeley will serve as the Shadow Minister of Tourism and Foreign Affairs, and Mr. Michael Lashley Casey will serve as the Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs. On top of that, I have also appointed a special envoy in the leader's office who will engage with our international partners, and our international partners being development agencies, political parties, and the like, Mr. Stefan Newton. And in terms of my own portfolios, I will be taking, as is usual for leaders, the position of economic affairs, and I have brought health, given the urgency of what our QH and our health systems face, to show not only the importance to the public, but to show the importance to everyone and the patient suffering, that health will be under the leader's office. And that is my signal on that issue. So these are the members of the Shadow Cabinet of the Democratic Labour Party, the positions in terms of the chaplaincy, chair of the Democratic Women's League, and the chair of the Young Dems as well. So it is with great pleasure that I announce these persons to serve for the people of Barbados. Really, it is about service, and I cannot say enough how grateful and how thankful I am that they have agreed to be part of this team. I will say right now to them and to everyone, because that is my style, that is my nature, and perhaps Tyra probably knows better than most, having been a student of mine, my frankness, my straightforwardness. We expect that we may have our differences, and as we turn over a new leaf, those differences will stay inside. Those differences will be hollowed out within the cabinet room, and we expect that persons will operate in a sense of professionalism, understanding their role at this difficult time in this country, this difficult time in this party as we rebuild trust, and to know that this is a sacred duty that they have done here today. This is not something simply, or I'm a shadow minister, I'm shadow this. This is serious business. And I think everyone who's accepted understands that, but I want to say that to the public so that they know that I am taking this seriously, and that we will not be playing around. We will be getting down to the business that is required to move this country forward and what the country requires of us. So with that note, I welcome our shadow cabinet, and before we call them up for a photo op, and beautiful people here with me. I see some person sharpening their tie. That is what I like to see. I will take a couple of questions from the media, and I may also take this opportunity to respond to a few of the pressing issues that we have in this country. Thank you.
Touched on it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
As you would know better than me, there has been a kind of a public debate about the older perhaps agreeing with the leadership or three parties.
Mm-hmm.
What is being done to ensure that those types of contentious issues don't extend to something? What is being done to men? What is being done to men? Some of the words that we've seen in the past year.
Okay. The question was in terms of the contention of perhaps older elements of the party and the new direction that the party is seeking to take, and if there's any particular conflict and what is being done to mend those. You know, the reality is families fall out, families put themselves back together, and these things are normal. Part of dealing with that would be the creation of the Elders Council, which would involve the past presidents, the past general secretaries, and some of the former cabinet ministers who will be able to offer that sense of stability and that sense of, I guess, for the best way to put it, a sense of continuity from the Democratic Labour Party of then to what the Democratic Labour Party is seeking to become. Growing is never easy. Change is never easy. There will always be some sense of growing pains. It is about how you address it and how you deal with it in a responsible, mature, and what I often call grown-up fashion. You will not see, as you've never seen, coming from the office, my office, or from any of the leadership of this party, us engaging in any public spats or debates with folks, because we have taken a position that we respect the institutions of this party, and we will do all to contain and ensure that it thrives. I will never be engaged in those kinds of public debates. Folks can always call me privately. We can always discuss things in here at the Walton Borough Auditorium, and we can always be able to have our debates here. And when we leave here, we go for a drink, or coffee, or both, because you could put them together. And I tend to like both, so we will go for either or together at the same time, and then we move on to the next thing that we have to do to ensure that we are functioning for the people of this country.
Thank you. You mentioned that Mr. Seeley and lastly some familiar names will be a part of this shadow cabinet. There were some other names who ran in the last election, or who ran the last election, like Mr. Eswick and Walters. Was it the case that they weren't selected, or how did these names come about?
That's a really good question, and I'm sure it's one that will probably be made into some sort of headline. So I will answer it in the best way I can to avoid the headline. Now, look, I am without brain tales from school. Some of the persons that you have mentioned were approached to be part of the shadow cabinet. They've made it clear that they have other priorities at this time, and I wish them well. We wish them well, and the door is always open. When those priorities are cleared, there's room for those persons to be part of this team. Some of those persons, if I'm honest with you, were not approached. And I will not, pretend otherwise, because at the same point in mixing the old with the new, we have to be very clear about the signal that we're sending to the country and what represents this party and what we will accept as acceptable behavior and what will be the conduct of all persons going forward. As I said before, it was interesting, General Secretary, we're just having a brief chat before this. And, we have to start the way that we intend to continue. If we intend to be a disciplined, fit, and fighting unit, that discipline has to start now. You don't get discipline when you become government. You have to develop those habits, and you have to be able to develop those behaviors. With that said, for example, I will shortly be forming an exploratory group who will be looking at how to implement any particular plans or policy that the Democratic Labour parties will come up with if we were to form government. Because I do not want a situation, say tomorrow we were to win the election, God bid, and you don't have a plan. You have a manifesto, but you do not have an operational plan in terms of a team. I don't think it's ever been done in the politics of Barbados or the Caribbean. It's something that you see in the US and America. They talk about that team that will literally be there ready to roll out your first 100 or 200 days, and we will start looking at that very, very shortly, along with exploring and developing the policies that this party will be offering to the country. And even before you ask, Trey, I will tell you, I can give you some, but I will not be revealing every single thing that we will be doing, because the government will likely to steal it. They'll probably do it badly. But at the same point, this is politics. I can't give away everything, because you ain't gonna buy. If I give away all the milk, you ain't gonna buy nothing. If I give you all the milk, I'll hold back some. So there will be a point as we go forward. We will be announcing key policy areas and initiatives, and that is what the shadow cabinet will be here to do. to carry this load. You will be hearing a lot from these guys. Probably seeing less of this pretty face, more of these prettier ones that we have here, and they will be here to answer your questions. So you can give them as much of a bruising as you like. You have my permission. Rough them up a little bit, test them, because there will come a point where they may actually be ministers. They have to actually be ready. And I want them to be ready. I want the public to trust them, to believe in them, to give them a chance. And that's what I'm also asking. I'm asking the public and asking the party at large to trust and believe in your membership, trust and believe in the team that we're building here, support them and give them the opportunities that they need to develop. No one starts big. People forget the Prime Minister was 21 and really, couldn't do nothing. He lost your first seat. Let me get real. No one starts so at the top. It is a matter of developing and honing your skills as you go along. So we look at people now that are household names. Nobody didn't know nothing about Marsha. Nobody didn't know nothing about nobody know these people. So these young people here, before people say, "Well, I know them," well, you know what? Get to know them, and they will get to know you. Let that be the relationship, and you guys build that out together. Because in a few years, these will be the household names. These will be the people pushing Barbados forward.
And then lastly, how soon or when will the party be rolling out actual candidates for the constituencies? Hopefully that. Well,
yes.
That anyway.
No, that's a good question. Last General Secretary, remind me, when was it? Last year we approved the candidate selection policy. Yes, it was last year. End of last year we had approved the policy. Then in January we rolled that policy out to the branches, so the branches are aware of the process of candidate selection. And the candidate selection process will begin shortly for a number of constituencies. Sorry, I can't tell you which ones yet, because there's some things in politics that must remain a surprise. And I heard a term today. What was it? Dry snitching. I'll probably see this by two. This guy got diversity in your team. I heard a term today, dry snitching. And if I tell somebody, you never know, they might accidentally tell it to somebody else. Not in a malicious way to cause harm, but there might be a little bit of dry snitching. So in order to avoid dry snitching, I probably ain't really, I will hold back in terms of the actual constituencies, but know that we will be starting very shortly with a few constituencies. And once that process is completed, we should have candidates. That would mean I would reckon, given timelines, we should have named candidates once the process is completed by Easter. I would think at least, by Easter we should have those named candidates. But I want the public and the party to know that the process and the machine to do that has been set up. So we've not been sitting, on our hands on this. That process, the machine to do that, has been set up. We've been having exploratory conversations, engaging people. People have approached the party. They've written in. We got a stack of letters in there for enough people who write to say that they want to be a candidate. And it's now for us to go through those persons, match to what our process is, and determine who are the best persons to represent this country, given the challenges that Barbados will face. And I want us to bear that in mind, that the challenges that this country will face will require the best talent that we can muster as a country to come forward. And when I say the best talent, I'm just talking about people with university degrees and all that kind of thing. Because I know often people use that as a stick to try to break and beat me up the head with, because I happen to have some university degrees. No fault of my own scholarships. I went to school, that's all right. But when I say the best talent, that's why I started talking about diversity. I'm talking across the board that can address the issues that this country will face, whether those are issues, health, crime, engaging, developing our boys, dealing with our schools, our roads, our environment, dealing with the development of communities and even the spiritual welfare of this country, which is something that governments don't tend to, focus on because, but that has to be an element that we have to pay some attention to. And I said that's my own bias, given my own background and my own afflictions, if you like to call them that. Any other questions? So, all right, if there are no other questions at this particular time, I would like to invite the members of the Shadow Cabinet for a photo op so that Barbadians can see the people that are getting ready to serve them. And again, we thank all of them for their service. So. So I would like to invite the Shadow Cabinet up. Thank you.
There was a longing in the land for a leader bold and true, with an air of something grand, and a vision bright and new, and a dedicated band to pull the country through. The Democratic Labour Party, and so we want the Dems again. Yes, we want the Dems again. The Democratic Labour Party. People wondered if we ought to move with so much speed. A lot more even thought we never could succeed, but we sought and wrought and fought by our every word and deed. The Democratic Labour Party, and so we want the Dems again, and we want the Dems again. The Democratic Labour Party. There were times in these first years when the road was very rough, but we had no time for tears or for being less than tough. So we just ignored the tears and pull out our heavy stuff. The Democratic Labour Party.